Hi, this is Rabbi Orlofsky with the Parsha in 5, where in 5 minutes we try to give you an insight into the Parsha that hopefully will enhance your Shabbos experience. And we're starting a new book, Shemos. Yeah, or as they say in Ivrit, Shemot, because this is the book where God Shemot the Egyptians. And so it's, of course, a very important sefer for us. It's all known by the Chazal as Sefer Geula, and it's really the beginning of the Jewish people. All of that is captured in this sefer. So, HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes to Moshe Rabbeinu and says, "Go down, Moses, way down to Egypt land, and tell old Pharaoh, let my people go." So he tells Moshe, "I want you to go down." And Moshe is on Har Sinai and argues with the HaKadosh Baruch Hu for a week. "I'm not the right guy for the job. I don't know how to speak. I don't know how to do this. Take somebody else." And Hashem keeps saying, "No, it's got to be you, Moshe. No, you got to do this. No, you got to do this." So Moshe really does not want to do this. And he finally goes down. And he goes into Paro with Aaron, and he confronts him and tells him, right, let the Jewish people go. And he says, I got a better idea. How about I don't give him any straw? How about that, Moshe? You're a wise guy. Obviously, you guys have too much spare time on your hands if you're sitting here talking about trying to go free. So you must have too much doing. So I'll take away all the straw. And as he comes out, he's, of course, accosted by his old enemies, Dasan and Aviram, and says, "Look what you did. You gave a sword to Paro to kill us. Terrible things." And the Parsha ends on a very depressing note. I mean, it starts on a pretty depressing note. It starts with us becoming slaves in Egypt. But it ends on a depressing note because here, Moshe was sure he was going to go in there and tell Paro, "Let my people go." And, he was going to let them go. Even though Hashem told him there were going to be Makos, even though he said there was going to be Makos Bacharos, he told him beforehand. But he just didn't expect things to get worse. And so it says in Perek Hey, Pasuk Chaf Beis, "V'yoshav Moshe Hashem v'yomer Adai Shem, Lama hareyosa la'am hazeh, lama zeh shalachtani." Hashem, why did you make it worse for these people? Why did you send me? Umiyazbazi el Paro l'daber b'shimcha. And since I came to Paro and speak in your name, Hera la'am hazeh, it's become worse for the people. V'hatzel lo yitzalta es amecha. And you did not save your people. V'yomer Shem Moshe ato tireh asher e'aseh leParo ki biyad chazaka yishalacheni u'biyad chazaka yigarshei me'artzenu. Don't worry, you watch. I will treat him with a strong hand, and he will send you out with a strong hand. He will chase you from the land. The end. This becomes one of Moshe Rabbeinu's defining attributes. He argues with God. He contends with him. You don't find that by Abraham. Abraham, Hashem says, "Take your son, your only son, the son that you love, bring him up the mountain and kill him." Abraham didn't say, "Hey, I've been teaching people for years that you're against human sacrifice. Now you want me to go and perform human sacrifice?" He didn't say, "Listen, I only got one kid and I don't have a spare." Like Harry wrote a book. He says, "I'm the spare in case anything happens to William. I become the king. I'm just a spare. I don't have a spare. If I kill this kid, I don't have anything else." Yeah, he had many questions, and he didn't ask any of them because he said, "Yeah, Kadosh Baruch Hu told me to do something. I'll do it." When Yitzchak wanted to go down to Egypt, Hashem told him not to. He didn't. That was it. Didn't ask any questions. And Yaakov, his whole life was filled with difficulties. Not only didn't he ask any questions, but when he told Paro, "I've had a long, hard life," HaKadosh Baruch Hu gets upset at him. But Moshe is arguing with Hashem constantly. The Medrash says that when he went to the well in Midian, he sees a scene. The first guy drops his wallet. The second guy comes, finds the wallet. The third guy shows up to get water, and the first guy kills him because he thinks he stole his money. And Moshe says, why did this happen? Moshe sees little babies being used as bricks in the wall, and he says, how could you do this? He says, you know better than me? You take one out. Yeah, you take one for yourself. That, of course, was Micha, who brings the idol through the Yam Suf. But throughout, Moshe is contending. So Moshe shows up and he says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, why did you send me? Things have only gotten worse. This is not how the story is supposed to go. And at the beginning of next week's parasha, Hashem says, boy, do I miss Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. I would tell them to do stuff, and they never questioned me. They had faith. They know I knew what I'm doing. But you're always fighting with me. You're always arguing with me. You know, maybe I have a plan. Maybe I know what I'm doing. And it seems like a pretty good point that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was making. And how exactly does Moshe Rabbeinu respond to it? And the answer is, you chose me to be a shepherd for your sheep. I have to watch out for them. Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov were building Klal Yisrael. They were laying the foundation. But now you put me in charge? Yeah, I'm going to come after you on everything. I'm going to be responsible for my people. And that is Moshe Rabbeinu's nature. That is his role. And that's why, as we know, there are 7 spheres that represent 7 powers that went into the creation of the world. Moshe corresponds to Netzach, to fight and be victorious. Aaron is Hod. He admits, he makes peace. Not Moshe. Moshe fights. Moshe argues. Moshe contends. And he becomes that midah of Netzach that every one of us, when it comes time, have to stand up and say what has to be said and do what has to be said to be able to save Klal Yisrael. Good Shabbos.